Check 1 2. Yeah, yo. Yeah, yo, check 1 2.
All right, everybody, we are getting ready for the music portion. I'm really excited about this. Like I said, I've had the wonderful pleasure to interview Justin, I think it was 2019, Justin. 2018? Oh my gosh. 2018, I was on vacation in Maine. I told my family they needed to leave the house so I could do my podcast. and I interviewed Justin. I prepped for days and days on it. He's got a phenomenal story of truth and honesty, which I'm finding that a lot of us are finally starting to get to that point, right? Where it's okay to not be okay, right? Would everybody agree it's okay to not be okay? So I will, with no further ado, I'm gonna let Justin get up here and just do his thing. Thank you guys, enjoy.
How's everybody going tonight? My name is Justin King. I go by Justin King Official as my stage name. I want to thank you guys for allowing me to come out and be part of such an amazing event tonight. I want to thank Sean and Adam for allowing me to come and perform for you guys tonight. I met Sean about 2018. We connected on the internet. He told me to come out and speak on mental health on a podcast. Mental health is something I'm very familiar with myself, something I struggled with many years of my life. I'm 27 years old. When I was 17 years old, I used to struggle with anxiety disorder. Still currently struggling with myself, but I learned how to push through. And music is something that really helped me to save, touch other people and save my own life. So now I make music to help and inspire other people that feel the same way. So I want to come out and perform a couple songs for you guys. You guys ready to have a good time or what? The song right here is called Nobody Cares. Let's get it.
Yo, let's do it. You ready?
Let's go.
Okay.
Yeah. Come on, you guys ready to have a good time tonight or what? It's my song called Nobody Cares. Let's get it. Yeah. I take a sip of this drink that write all my thoughts down. I'm feeling lost in the same, hoping I don't drown. I know they want me to fail up in my hometown, but I just want to be happy, I want it right now. Yeah, taking all these drugs so I don't feel the pain. I know they tell me be strong, but I've been losing faith. They think happiness and love, it all comes with the age. And you can see it in my eyes that I ain't been okay. Take another hit, then I take another sip. Then I bottle my emotions, hoping one day that I'll quit. I know lately I've been stuck, I swear it's hard to get a grip. But what's the point of living? No one gets it. Yeah. Let me see you guys put your hands up, right side, left side, let's go. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah. I lock myself in this room and I just scream out loud. But that's just me being me when no one else around. They all tell me they love me and that they hella proud. But why do I feel alone just when I'm in the crowd? Need depression in my mind, they got the best of me. Anxious, paranoia, whole anxiety is stressing me. Don't want these people next to me, don't want nobody question me. Cause if I ever hit their phone, ain't no one texting me. I take a shot and then I take a puff. Take another pill at night, just so I can cover up. Stay home and I lay in bed, every night I cuddle up. Swear I really hate this shit, swear I feel like giving up. Put your hands up. Lost in the, yeah. Right side, hands up, let's go. Yeah. Don't make it sound, yeah. And through the depths of my darkness, sometimes I just want to give up. Ain't nobody there for me, nobody cares for me. Shit is hard. But mom, this next song, I need you guys put your hands up right high. We're gonna rock this thing on the count of three, let's go. Just what else do we got, you know? 1, 2, 3.
I'm caught in the in-between, busting a dying dream. Nobody cares about
mine, I go by Justin King Official. This is my song called Nobody Cares, available everywhere now. I want to thank you guys for coming out tonight. You guys enjoying the show or what? Make some noise. Just love and energy tonight. We're just getting started. Before I get into this next song, I want to say a couple words. Many times in my life when I struggled, I always felt like I was the only one dealing with it. Many times I always felt like I was alone, nobody understood me. So if there's anybody here tonight that feels like they're alone, just know that you're never alone. This next song's called You're Not Alone. Let's get into it.
Man, I don't feel like that before. I don't know.
I always feel alone, bro. I always feel alone, you know? So this right here, let them know, bro.
For real,
This song right
let's
here,
do
You're
it.
Not Alone. You're
Let's
never
do
alone.
it. Tell them something.
This song right here is for anybody struggling with mental health. Anybody who ever feels alone tonight, just know that you're never alone. I need you guys to listen to the words of this one. This one's deep. Yeah. 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 I know you broken and you feel this pain. I know you screaming deep inside, but no one hears a thing. I know some days you wanna die cause nothing's ever changed. And every day you go and cry, you feeling so insane. Yeah, I know it's hard with dealing with depression. You wish you had someone to talk to, someone that would get you. You having nightmares of the past of being on the stretcher. Just know that if you ever fall, I'll be here right to catch you. Sometimes you're feeling broken, got nowhere else to go. Just hiding all your pain and hoping it'll show. Some days you're feeling lost and always on your own. Just keep on holding on and know you're not alone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just know you're not alone. Yeah, yeah. Just know you're not alone. Yeah. Just keep on holding on and never let it go. I know you're feeling lost. No, you're not alone. You lose control, you try to stay afloat. I know you feeling like you lost and that you missed your boat. Some days you wanna go and quit and go and get the rope. But don't you ever go and do it, go and have some hope. Just knowing that I feel your pain, cause I've been broken too. You try to go and tell your feelings, no one noticed you. Just know I really feel your pain or what you going through. And don't you ever feel alone, cause I've been hopeless too. Sometimes you're feeling broken, got nowhere else to go. Just hiding all your pain and hoping it'll show. Some days you're feeling lost and always on your own. Just keep on holding on and know you're not alone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, just know you're not alone.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Doing okay.
Holding on, and now I know you're feeling lost. No, you're not alone. How you guys feeling tonight? You guys enjoying the show? I need that energy tonight. I'm loving energy tonight, guys. Before I close up this set, this next song I'm going to perform for you guys is a song that really changed my life. This song over here has over 10 million views on YouTube. This song over here touched millions of lives, and this song means a lot to me. So before we get into this next song, I need you guys to take your phones down, put all those lighters up before we get into this next song. So everybody, I need to see you guys' phones. Light this thing up before we get into this next song. Let me see those lighters. Let's see those lighters. Let's go. Yo, what you thinking? They got enough lighters in here or what? No, they ain't ready yet. They ain't ready. They ain't ready.
Let me add mine to it. There we
Let
go.
them know. Let them know.
Your lighter. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I like to see.
see.
This song right here is a staple for everybody that feels like they're in a dark place, whether you're going with mental health, financial struggles, anything you're going through, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. This song right here is called Illuminate. Let's get it. This song for anybody struggling with mental health tonight. You guys put those lighters up. Let's go. Talk to him.
If I stumble, if I fall,
If I fall,
if I ever lose it all,
if I lose it, yeah.
when my back is
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you got to the light up tonight, let's go. Yeah, 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 yeah. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah. I feel like the devil inside of me. The depression, I'm feeling anxiety. It's a struggle, but normal, I try to be. But it's hard when there's no one who guided me. All these people who don't understand. Judging inside, telling you be a man. Battling demons, I sink in the sand. Pop 2 or 3 hands, nothing to defend. My thoughts suicidal. Friends that I thought was my homies, but they just done turning my rivals. Right hand on the Bible, this one for the people. Going through things they ain't treating us equal. We all are the same. Gotta hold on, cause it's all in our brain. Gotta stay strong even though we in pain. Gotta have faith even though that sometimes that we feeling insane. I know that it's hard. I know that there's nights that we praying to God. I know that there's times that we feel like we lost and we want to give up. Just know that you won. You stare at your phone. Everyone leave me alone. I do the shit on my own. Nobody care about me when I'm gone. Sticking to people that tell me I'm wrong. For everyone going through things in this battle of demons, just know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Whenever we feel like we bleeding, we gotta just keep moving forward. Just know that we gotta stay strong, and for all of our friends and the people that need us, put your hands up.
If I stumble, if I fall, if I ever lose it all,
If I lose it, yeah.
when my back is the wall, I'll still be standing.
I'm right here.
If I crumble till I'm gone,
I'm gone.
if I cry until I'm numb,
I ain't never give up.
when the lights go
Yeah,
out, that's when I lose.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me see those lighters up. Let's go. Yeah, 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 yeah. 1, 2.
That's when I lose.
Never worry the people who's judging you. Only one is the one right in front of you. Just believe you can do what you want to do. And you see that the moment's in front of you. Know there's times when you feel like it's dark. Just know that this light, you just gotta keep up. Gotta keep pushing on, never give up. I've been through the struggle, I've been through the rut. I've been through the storm, been through the pond, been through the pit where I feel like I'm gone. Panic attacks wishing we wasn't born. I do the best while I stare at the walls. What's happened to me? What's good in my life, but this happened to be. Wish I could go back to the wild and free. Wish I could go back to them times when I feel like this not even me. I know that it's hard. I know that there's nights that we praying to God. I know that there's times that we feel like we lost and we want to give up. Just know that you won. You stare at your phone. I didn't get alone. Get on my own. Nobody care about me when I'm gone. Sticking to people that tell me I'm wrong. So happy on going through things in this battle of demons. Just know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Whenever we feel like we bleeding, we gotta just keep moving forward. Everything has a reason. Just know that we gotta stay strong, and for all of the friends and the people that need us, put your hands up.
If I stumble, if I fall,
If I fall,
if I ever lose it all,
if I lose it, yeah.
when my back is the wall, I'll still be standing.
Right here,
If I crumble till I'm gone,
gone.
if I cry until I'm numb,
I ain't never give up.
when the lights go
Yeah,
out, that's when I lose.
yeah, 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 yeah.
That's when I lose.
Thank you for mine, guys. Thank you so much for having me. Love you.
Yeah, give it up to the man right there, Justin. You just put it down. How often you get this, and where do you get this? Yo, man, thanks for rocking the set. Thank you for my mic back. I need that word. What we got next up on the menu, Mr. Sean? We got a really special treat coming. Anybody out here like special treats? Oh man, y'all don't have no more enthusiasm. I want a special treat. For real. You hear me? What you looking for? Microphone is in my hand.
All right, what did everybody think of Justin King? be one of the very first times rap has really been heard in Vermont. Just saying. All right, so a few years ago, Rivendell Academy had a guest speaker come to speak at the Academy to talk about mental health. And my daughter came home and she said, "Dad, some guy came into the school in a suit, who's an older gentleman. He came into the school and he started telling us a story about mental health and all this stuff." And I said, "Wait a second, hold on. We live 5 minutes from the school and nobody called me?" I said, "I'm a little hurt." So I called to find out who it was. It was my next guest. I called Chief Justice, actually I emailed Chief Justice Broderick. And I said, "Hey, I'd really love to talk to you if you have a moment." And he said, "Sure, why don't you come on down?" And we met at Dartmouth. And I think we sat and talked for about 45 minutes. Like there was nobody else in the world around in the middle of Dartmouth Hospital. And I've just been so impressed by his work, his life story, and his journey, and his ability to see what a lot of people in his generation have chosen to block out. And so it is my honor and my pleasure to bring forth Chief Justice John Broderick.
Can you all hear me? I have never felt this cool in my entire life. You're amazing. You're amazing. And Sean told me that I should keep my remarks under 2 hours. I said, "I'll try to do that." I promise I won't do that. So I really am honored to be here tonight. I love this man and the work he does every day. He changes and saves lives every single day. So when he asked me to come here, I was only too happy to be with you. And I won't be long. I'm probably the last guy in America to be doing what brings me here tonight. I've had some amazing professional opportunities in my lifetime, not the least of which was being Chief Justice of our Supreme Court in New Hampshire, Dean of the Law School at UNH. The reason I'm in Quechee Inn is the most important work I've done in my entire professional life, and I mean that. I'm a baby boomer, not that you could have ever guessed that. And the world I grew up in, by the way, nobody talked about mental illness. Nobody talked about it. Just as one of those conversations, it was just too awkward to have, so nobody had it. So I knew nothing about mental illness or mental health. I knew nothing. Eventually, I took up residence in my own house. I'm seen for what it was. I had 2 sons, 11 and 13. I took up residence in my 13-year-old son. He didn't know he had a mental health problem. How would you know that? Just how you feel, how you react to other people. But he was suffering. He thought it was just him. It wasn't just him. And we didn't see it for what it was. And in the years that followed, he got a bachelor's degree, a master's degree. He's one of the brightest people I have ever known. But he was also suffering. And we saw alcohol, not mental illness. And we made decisions, my wife and I, based on what the alcohol experts told us. And it was the worst decision we ever made in our whole life. It took my master's educated son to the state prison. And it took me to the intensive care unit of the hospital in Manchester. I wish I could take some of those decisions back, but I can't. And it wasn't until my son got to the state prison that we found out what his issues were. The psychiatrist said, "Your son's been self-medicated with alcohol, Judge." He has really serious depression. He has anxiety and panic attacks, that feeling you're about to die, which he described, he, the psychiatrist, as virtually off the charts. And when he told us that in that place, I knew, my wife knew, that we had failed him. I should have known something about mental illness, but I didn't. I thought all mental health problems were hopeless, basically. They're far from hopeless. I know that now. I didn't know it on that morning. They work with my son. And after about 4 or 5 months, we visit twice a week. I was Chief Justice of our Supreme Court then. I wasn't really popular at the prison. I'd keep you up at night if your child was in the prison. He was very brave about it. After about 4 months, he came out one night, hugged us as he always did. He said, "Dad, I feel so different." I said, "What do you mean different?" He said, "Dad, I'm sleeping through the night now. My mind's not racing all day. I can focus, Dad. I'm teaching at the prison now." I said, "What are they doing for you?" He said, "Well, I see a counselor here, Dad. She's terrific. And I take medication at night and in the morning." I didn't know you could feel like this, Dad. He was like that for his time at the prison. And I knew that we had failed him. I should have known something about mental illness. My son was paroled after 3 years in the prison. The day he was paroled, they sent a camera crew up to talk to my wife and to me. They put the lens about a foot from my face and said, "Do you have anything you want to say?" I said, "I do, actually. My son's not a bad person who's suddenly a good person. He's always been a good person. He's now well." And those are very different things, by the way. I know that now. My son, who was drinking pretty much every day for years, has not had a drop of alcohol in 15 years. He said, "Dad, you could put me overnight in a liquor store. I wouldn't drink. Might have a Coca-Cola, but I'm not that guy anymore. I don't have the tug anymore." I love my son. He's proud of what I'm doing, which makes me proud to be doing it. But why am I bothering people with my story? About 6 years ago, I got involved in a campaign. I wish I was smart enough to come up with it, but I wasn't. One of the 5 most common signs of mental illness. The genius behind it was a psychologist in Maryland. She was on Time Magazine's 100 list in 2012, the 100 most influential people on the planet. And she deserves to be on that list. She said, "John, I want to make the 5 most common signs of mental illness as well known and as widely known as the signs of a heart attack or a stroke." I thought that was genius, by the way. I still do. I bet most of you know the signs of a heart attack or a stroke, or some of them. I doubt you went to medical school. Now we call 911, and thousands of lives are saved every year. But most of us don't know much about mental illness. I got involved in the campaign. We launched it on a Monday morning, May 23rd, 2016, in an empty House chamber in Concord on our state house. New Hampshire's a small state, but we have 400 state reps. I think that's enough, by the way, but that's what we have, 400. And they weren't in session, so there were a lot of empty seats. I thought it was a mistake to open the campaign there, nonpartisan, non-political awareness campaign on mental health. I thought 15 people would show up. My wife and I got there that day, there were 425 people. The most impressive room I'd ever seen assembled in 40 years in my state. 3 members of the Supreme Court, the Attorney General, the Chief Justice of the Superior Court, our entire congressional delegation, our governor, the Catholic bishop, the Episcopal Church, the Jewish community, hospital CEOs, educators, law enforcement, and families. I knew we had hit a nerve. I knew that day that my wife and I had not been marching down there in the Valley of Mental Illness by ourselves. There were a lot of families down there. We just never looked up. I looked up that morning. Barbara Van Dalen, the genius behind the campaign, shared these statistics out there, which I didn't know, but can't forget now. 1 in 5 adolescents in America, 1 in 5, has a diagnosable mental health problem. 1 in 5 adults too. You can do the math on that. It's tens of millions of people. Every 90 minutes, every day, including this day, some brave American veteran, he or she, takes their own life. We lose 20 veterans a day to suicide in America. We don't talk about that much. That's kind of awkward. Realize from 2007 to 2017, according to the CDC, the rate of suicide for people ages 10 to 24, the wonder years of life, increased 56%. Are we okay with that? The 2019 survey of high school kids in the United States, again from the CDC, this is before COVID, 46.6% of high school girls in the United States of America are depressed. 26% of high school boys. 1 in 4 high school girls in America gave serious consideration. That's what the question says. To ending their life in the last 12 months. 15% had made plans to end their life. 11.3% of high school girls nationally had tried suicide 1 or more times in the previous 12 months. Can you imagine if 11% of high school girls in America had cancer? Imagine if 46% of high school girls had COVID or diabetes. It would be a national emergency. The Surgeon General of the United States in December, this past December, described what's going on with mental health in adolescents as a national crisis. The American Academy of Pediatrics described it last July as a national emergency. It's not being treated that way. That's on all of us, by the way. Since we launched this campaign 6 years ago, I've traveled about 100,000 miles. I've spoken to about 150,000 people. I've been to 300 middle schools and high schools. I have hugged more kids with wet eyes in New England than anyone alive. Not because I'm special, but because when you make yourself vulnerable, kids open up to you. And I guarantee you, if everybody in Vermont were at my elbow on those days, and you heard what these kids are sharing, you would say something's not right here. What are we waiting for, people? I don't want to sound too righteous because I was part of the problem for a long time. I'm not part of the problem now. I see it now. We need to act. A year ago, I spoke to the Rosalynn Carter Chair of Mental Health at Emory University in Atlanta, March 2021. She had an amazing bio. I said to him during that call, Doctor, how would you rate the mental health system in the United States? 1 being not very good, 10 being the gold standard. He said, John, I can't answer that. I said, why is that? He said, we don't have a mental health system, John, in the United States of America. Are we okay with that? Are we okay with that? What are we doing about it? He said, John, if you live on either coast and you have money, you'll eventually find help. But if you're everybody else, good luck. If anyone tonight in this room fell and broke their leg, we'd call 911. There'd be an ambulance here within 15 minutes and take you off the floor, bring you to the hospital, set your leg, and somebody would pay for it. If you have a child with a mental health problem, who do you call? When do you get seen? Who pays for that? And for how long? The way we treat mental illness in the United States is immoral. Not just a bad idea, it's immoral. On Valentine's Day, 2021, in my state, New Hampshire, there were 51 children and adolescents in community hospitals being boarded because those hospitals, as great as they are, can't treat acute mental health problems. And there was nowhere to put them or bring them. The national standard said children in that condition shouldn't be in an emergency room for more than 4 hours. Those 51 kids, many were there for many more hours than that. Some were there for days, some were there for weeks. It's immoral the way we treat it, and it doesn't need to be. We could change it if you want. I don't have any right to feel a fiduciary obligation of these kids that I hug, but I do. I have a voice that they don't have. I have a life experience that they haven't lived. I was pretty ignorant about mental illness. I'm not ignorant now, and I'm really impatient for change. Let me close with this. When I go out to see kids, I love this generation, by the way, I mean that. They are smarter, non-judgmental, but the rate of anxiety and depression among young people is at an all-time high. It was that way before COVID too. I say to these kids, if you want to help me change the culture, we can. We can make it impossible. My generation did a lot of great things. Baby boomers did some great things. Not on mental health, we did. We didn't talk about it. And nothing changed. I say to these kids, you can do that if you want. I tell them that my dad was a high school teacher and was paid on Thursday nights. My mother, my sister, my dad, and I used to go to the same little local restaurant every Thursday. My parents loved my sister and myself as they threw smoke in her face across those tables. Everyone was smoking. I couldn't wait to be a smoker, by the way. I couldn't wait for that day. And then we get in my dad's car to drive home, and my mother or father or both would light up. They'd crack the window. You know the fabulous crack the window filter system? Didn't seem to work too well in the back seat where I was. And then we got to my childhood home. Every room in that house had an ashtray. Even the bathrooms in my house had ashtrays. Every coffee table in America, every teacher's lounge in every school, every hospital, every automobile, every doctor's office. Have you seen an ashtray recently? Something changed. Something changed. Don't tell me change is impossible. I tell these kids that when I was 12 years old, we had a black and white television in my house, and they look at me and say, how old is this guy? They said, I only had 3 stations, by the way. They went off at midnight, but I was enough to watch that. And some nights I'd say I'd be watching the news with my mother. And some nights I'd see African Americans dressed like I'm dressed tonight, marching peacefully, holding signs. I didn't know what they were marching. I obviously do now. And some nights on those new protests, I see those people knocked to the ground, hit by billy clubs, attacked by police dogs. That's pretty frightening at any age, but at 12 years old. So did my mother, where is that happening? And believe me, she wasn't proud of it. She said, it's happening in our own country. If you had said to the 12-year-old version of me after that broadcast, John, do you think in your lifetime we will elect somebody with a black face as president of the United States? I would have said, I'll bet in my ashtray we don't do that. Thank you, Barack Obama. I was Chief Justice when he was running in the New Hampshire primary in 08. I never met him. And my mother had passed by the time he won that election, but her voice remained. I was watching him in Grant Park in Chicago that night. My mother said to me, you better be down there. You better go to that inauguration. It hadn't happened in 232 years. It was more rare than a total eclipse of the sun. So I bought an airline ticket. I wanted to experience history live for myself and for my mother, to be honest. She would have been there. She would have come to ride to get there. I stood on the mall that January day. I was so far from Barack Obama, they were 2 inches tall. So I watched it mostly on the Jumbotron, where he was 15 feet tall. In less than a minute, after 232 years, Barack Hussein Obama, with the funny name and the blackface, was sworn in as President of the United States of America and leader of the free world. Something changed. Something changed. If we can eliminate ashtrays from the world I grew up in, where everyone smoked, or I wanted to smoke, if we can elect somebody with a black face to 2 terms in the White House in the United States, from the childhood I remember, where racism was tolerated every day in this country, and sometimes applauded. If we can do that, we can learn the 5 basic signs of mental illness. And for the first time in the history of the United States, see the people around us who are suffering and reach out to them, as Sean Perry and his team do every single day. The work of people like Sean Perry, I don't know where these kids would turn. And many of them, by the way, are afraid to tell their parents. I don't want to disappoint you. That's on all of us. So my plea with all of you is to pay attention and advocate for change. If any of you here tonight think, well, if we just hold tight, they're going to devise a mental health system in this country, you're going to be sorely disappointed. If they were going to do that, they would have done it by now. They haven't done it and they won't do it until you insist on it. My mother used to whisper the word cancer to me. Seems silly now, doesn't it? Some people weren't as brave as my mother. He or she has the C word, they would say. No adult in my childhood ever said the word breast publicly, except Hugh Hefner, Playboy magazine. Now we say breast cancer. Look at the change. Look at the progress. Everybody in this room probably knows the color for breast cancer awareness. Very few people know the color for mental health. Most people say, "You're kidding, it has a color? What is it?" That's the gap I'm talking about. 300,000 women last year in America had breast cancer diagnoses. Millions and millions and millions of our fellow citizens are suffering tonight without access to care. Unless we're okay with that, and I'm sure in this room you're not, we need to speak up and speak out. I need your impatience and I need your voices. And we need more people like Sean Perry and the people who work with him. They're a lifeline for so many kids and families. Anyway, thank you for listening. Honor to be with you.
All right. Thank you, John. Much appreciated. As always, we've learned a lot. I'm gonna hop on the computer here and get ready for another phase. I believe, Adam, we're doing the championship. How's everybody doing? Everybody still awake? Everybody doing okay? I know you had big meals, dessert. I know it makes you tired and sluggish, right? Bear with me. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna show, in case somebody didn't have an opportunity to see it, our CNN 2021 Champions for Change video. that we had the honor to be nominated for. After that, I'm going to come back and talk to you all about who We Are Hope is, where we started, where we're at, and where we're going. Does that sound good to everybody? All right. Hold on.
All this week, we did a special series called Champions for Change. We're spotlighting everyday people who don't make headlines, but still snatch their ideas and lift us all up.
So my champion, named Sean Perry, he started an organization called We Are Hope. I went to Vermont to see how that group is bringing mental health care to school kids at no cost to their parents.
When I walk out the door, I'm headed for work, and we know that we are literally saving and changing lives, and that's the most powerful thing.
In a rural community outside the border of Vermont and New Hampshire, the seeds of a mental health revolution are quietly being planted. Sean Perry, co-founder of the nonprofit We Are Hope, is bringing mental health services to schools at no cost to the students.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I'm here to make sure that if you guys have a difficult day, that you have somebody to talk to.
We are able to help kids that would not normally have access to mental health support. That's how we're changing the status quo.
When the pandemic hit, I didn't recognize my babies anymore.
17-year-old Lindsay and 12-year-old Jacob struggled with anxiety and depression during the pandemic.
It kind of felt like there was this like icy ball in the back of my throat. I just felt so hopeless.
It just felt like I was stuck in a cage that I couldn't escape from.
I didn't know how to help them. If we didn't have We Are Hope available through the school, I could have lost my kids down a dangerous little path.
One of the top causes of death for teenagers is suicide. The statistics are really frightening. I'm the mother of 3 teenagers, so I'm always attuned to their moods and their mental health. And then I personally remember being a teenager. And for me, those were turbulent years. Between the time I was 15 and 17, I lived in 6 different houses. There was a lot of upheaval, and it did end up affecting my mental health. Do you have some of those same issues?
I struggled significantly with anxiety. In my 20s, I was hopeless, alone. I made a deal with myself that I was going to go to the local park and just end everything. And I woke up and I was like, I'm still here. I'm still here. My purpose right now is to make sure that there's not another kid on this planet that has to feel the way that I felt. How are we going? Are you guys excited?
Yeah.
I'm excited too.
How does We Are Hope function in this school?
If we have a coach in a school for 6 hours, we can see 12 students 5 days a week for about 60 to 90 days. And then we rotate them out and get another 12 students in. It's very individualized. Typically when we see our kids, it's because of a behavior. Blowing out of class, throwing a desk, not doing your homework. We work backwards from that behavior. We teach our kids thoughts create emotions, which influence or impact our behavior.
Before We Are Hope entered our school 4 years ago, we had 2 school counselors for roughly 300 kids. We did our best, but it wasn't enough. We Are Hope is what I consider a missing piece in education. If students get the support to cope with anxiety, then they can learn.
We gathered at the Heartland Diner to hear from the kids themselves. How many people felt more anxiety or more depression during the pandemic? All of you.
It was a really big negative impact on my life.
Trying to get in fights and stuff.
I was nervous a lot. I had a lot of anxiety. My depression hit me so hard.
Give me a technique that We Are Hope taught you.
I learned this new breathing technique called birthday cake breathing.
It's not loaded anymore. We're gonna end it there. Sorry, not gonna waste too much time. It's not loading because of the Wi-Fi. So I'm going to walk you all through the story and the birth of We Are Hope. That's where it started. On a futon on a Wednesday night in November. James and I were working at a private mental health care facility where it costs $60,000 to $90,000 or more for students to get mental health supports. Now, I believe that all people should have access to supports. James believes that all people should have access to supports. And I don't believe in shaming anybody that can afford those prices. I think that that's amazing that one can do that for their family. But my problem is that I have 5 children. And if one of my children suffered, there was nothing that I could do. Absolutely nothing. So on a cold winter night, every Wednesday, James and I would get together. He worked the back half of the week, I worked the front half of the week. And on Wednesdays, we would come together because it was the day we worked together, and we would collaborate on what the rest of the week was going to look like for the center that we were working. What were we going to do to make our kids better and give them the support that they needed, and how are we going to build our teams to be better support staff for the kids, so forth and so on. And one night, I'll never forget it, obviously, I said to James, hey, I got to tell you something, but you can't tell anybody. I have an idea. I said, what if we helped everybody? I said, I really want to go into schools and support kids in the school and coach them up. James looks at me and goes, hey, I was thinking the same thing. So I looked at him and I said, well, let's start a company. And he goes, are you serious? And I go, yeah, I'm serious. Let's start a company. So we pulled out our credit cards that night. Was it that night? Next week. It was pretty quick. Okay, 2 weeks. We'll say 2 weeks. So we met again. We talked about the name. We agreed on a name. We pulled out our credit cards. We got onto LegalZoom, and we created an LLC, We Are Hope. We were so excited. It was after Christmas. We went out and got We Are Hope LLC shirts and business cards. That was our first logo right here. My daughter drew it. This was our second one where we actually had business cards. And then we finally settled on this one. We were so proud of ourselves to create something that nobody knew what it was, and neither did we. To be honest with you, we had no idea what we were doing. But we did know that every child on this planet, regardless of income, deserves the mental health supports that anybody else can get. And we wanted to make sure that that was possible. So we devised a way to make sure that that was possible, and that was to offer it free to the family. Now, wait a second. What do you mean it's free to the family? Well, if we're in the school pays for it. The family doesn't. That sounds like free, doesn't it? Doesn't it? So we started working and hustling, and Wes joined us on our very first meeting somewhere in the White Mountains, where everybody looked at us like we had 5 heads. Who are these new kids on the block thinking that they're gonna come tell us mental health professionals how to support kids in schools. And when I say that's what they said, that's what they said. You know what I said? I'm Sean Perry, and I'm gonna tell you how to do it. In case you didn't know, now you do. So we presented in front of these people, and people were concerned because we're the new guys. They don't know. What's your evidence? What's your data? What's your this? What's your that? What's your this? What's your that? And I said, well, we don't have that quite yet, but we do know that consistency and support is the key to supporting children, right? So from this meeting, we had someone reach out from Claremont Middle School. And we got our very first contract at the school. And I guess I gotta back up a little bit, because before that contract, I was running another residential center. And I didn't know what I was gonna do, because we had to put all of our time and energy into We Are Hope, or it was not going to work. James thought that it was a good idea while we were launching We Are Hope to move to Boston. And then drove 2.5 hours every day to work to support kids for 2 hours. That's commitment. So that I could continue to work at the other facility where I was actually still fully employed. I then came home shortly after this stint, as we contracted with a third hour, and that's when it kind of opened up a little bit. And I came home and I looked at my wife and I said, I'm quitting my job. She said, what? Now, I was making a decent salary with great benefits, or good benefits. And I said, I'm quitting my job. I have to give everything that I have to We Are Hope. James has to give everything he has to We Are Hope. But the contract's only 3 hours. The contract amount was $2,500 a month. I have 5 kids. Car payments, motorcycle payment, rent, lights. James has his car payments. I think James took $500 and gave me the rest every month to get by. I maxed out all my credit cards. I'm not sure if James did, but I know I did. And I pushed hard for contracts and said, how are you gonna get them? I contacted and cold called every superintendent in the state of New Hampshire and in the state of Vermont, personally. Every single one of them, to get somebody on the phone, to talk to them, to tell them that there's a program out here that is newly developed, that is ready and willing to help students 5 days a week for a half an hour every single day. And that we could create real, everlasting change in their lives. Not many people believe it. So we continued to keep working and working and working, and then we got Windsor, and then we got Rivendell, and all of a sudden we started hiring people, and it was too much work for James and I to even do ourselves, because we were doing all the work ourselves originally. And then we partnered with the National Empowerment Center. We were the first organization to bring emotional CPR to teachers in a school setting. We were the first to bring mental health, youth mental health first aid to Vermont. Then we realized that eCPR is much better. It supports you on a much deeper level. It gives the kids the support that they actually need. Well, we were able to partner with Project 375, which is, I don't know if any of you are sports fans, but that's Brandon Marshall's nonprofit group. And in that same year, in 2018, we hosted the very first ever Upper Valley Youth Wellness Retreat at Milldale Farm Center for Wellness. We had 12 students. 2 of them were my kids. and I made them go. Not a lot. We thought we were the coolest. We got shirts. We were so excited. And we built this idea, just like We Are Hope, that all kids should have access to support. And so this retreat was only a 3-day retreat on the weekend. And I think we might have charged $50 for the kids to come. Fast forward, I started teaching anxiety education to the Vermont Dream mentors. And so all of the mentors that are in the Vermont Dream Mentor Program, I would teach them anxiety education so they can support the kids that they currently work with and understand that it's not about the behavior that they're seeing, but what's behind the behavior. Remember when I told you that people didn't understand what we were doing and didn't believe in our work? So some of you have never met me before, but I am absolutely, positively ruthless. And I do not ever take no for an answer. So we had a grant at Claremont Middle School that was paying for their school, and for some reason they pulled it. They've never really told us why. And they said that it was because we couldn't prove that we had evidence and we weren't using evidence-based practice, blah, 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 which we were, and so forth. And so I called Claremont and I said, hey, listen, I got a question. I know the grant was pulled, but if we pay for it, right? If we offer up our services, can we still support those kids? Because we've already started. And we don't want to have those kids with no support for the rest of this year. So we went and we got money and we were able to fund that school for the rest of the year ourselves. We paid our coach. We made no money off of it. We only paid our coach to be in the building. Here's my ruthlessness. I called Dr. McCann's cats in DC. And I said, hey, James and I would like to come and talk to you about our program. We'd like to present our program to SAMHSA and let you know that we are the real deal, that we do offer evidence-based curriculum, and that we're going to keep doing it. So we flew to DC. There she is. Happy to see us. It was a heck of a weekend. And I will say that she then said to us, you are an evidence-based program. I don't know why anybody would ever pull your grant. You're doing amazing work. Keep doing it. Now, we have our IRB written. We have our manuscript being written, and we are an evidence-based program by all stretches of the imagination, and we're getting published in the journal soon. Started early on. It was really difficult for us. Like, there was a lot of things, like I said, guys, we just didn't know. So we were slowly starting to find ways to track some data. And in that data, in our first year that we tracked, we used the generalized anxiety disorder, the GAD-7, to be able to track what we were doing. And that's the way that we measured whether or not students were successful in learning the skills necessary to reduce their anxiety. So we had 48 students that were actually able to complete during 2020 and 2021 during COVID. We started out with a 9.8 and went to a 6.0 with a decrease of 39% in their anxiety over a few months. CESRD, that is the depression scale as well. We had a 12% decrease in working with a coach over a few months as well. As we went into our Upper Valley Youth Wellness Retreat in our second year, this one was interesting because this is only for 3 weeks. And so I should mention that we have students come Monday through Thursday for 3 weeks from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And so we polled all of our students, gave them the generalized anxiety disorder screener. And after 3 weeks, we saw a 17% decrease in anxiety, just in 3 weeks of them working with us. We mentioned that we're having our Upper Valley Youth Wellness Retreat again this year. And one of the things, like I said, that we want to make sure we have access to for everybody, our retreat is only $25 a day for our kids. $25 a day for 8 hours away from home to get yoga, mindfulness, equine wellness, anxiety education, hiking, swimming. I think we've got some other cool stuff happening this year as well. So again, we're trying to create access for all children. I get asked all the time, are you serious, only $25? I say, yeah. Well, can I give you more? You're more than welcome to, but it's only $25, right? Just make a donation. So this year we partnered with an organization called MD Logics and BH Works. They're one and the same, and they now track all of our data. Every piece of data that we do, this is what James does. It is meticulous. It is tiresome, it is bothersome, and he does this for us. This year, I'm very, very excited. Out of 230 students in our first batch, we saw a 73% decrease. 73% decrease in anxiety. We then saw in our next batch, we then saw a 41% decrease in 255 students, or a little over 120 days. And as you know, we were the Champions for Change recipients of this year for 2021, which was just an honor to be even nominated. We were actually at the summer retreat last year. I got a random phone call or a random email from someone that said they were from CNN, and I was like, get out of here. I'm from CNN. And sure enough, they were. Our Upper Valley Youth Wellness Retreat, like I said, $25 a day, changing lives. This year, we have sold 157 tickets out of 225 that we have. 157 tickets. All right, the fun stuff. So this year, We Are Hope opened up in Vermont, New Hampshire, or we've been in Vermont and New Hampshire for a little while. We finally landed Concord Middle School. In the middle of the year, or at the beginning of the year, I got a phone call in October from Pine Bluff High School. I'll save the long story. We are in Pine Bluff High School, Arkansas. We are now currently working on another contract to get not only their high school, but 2 middle schools and 4 elementary schools, and be in their entire district. We are now currently also working on Connecticut and 2 schools in Connecticut, and slowly working on one in Massachusetts. We Are Hope does plan to be everywhere. When we created this, as you know, anybody here know about business a little bit, right? You ask what your long-term goals are. James and I said, we want to be in all 50 states. If you haven't noticed, there's nothing that we don't accomplish. And here's what I mean. So while teaching emotional CPR in 16 countries in Africa and Southeast Asia in the fall this year, I met a gentleman named Timothy Anyango, and he runs an organization called Mindful African Initiative. Long story short, We Are Hope has partnered with Mindful African Initiative. We will be overseeing his organization, so they will be underneath us, and we will be opening an arm of We Are Hope in Nairobi, Kenya. On that note, yesterday, while playing golf with Adam and James and his sister, I got a text message from another gentleman who owns Summit Wilderness Therapy. He's just launching it. He called me for advice as a mentor. My advice was, you should come under the We Are Hope umbrella. He sent me a message yesterday and said, that sounds like a great idea. So we are hopefully soon we'll be offering wilderness therapy under our guise. Very exciting stuff. Tabula rasa. Tabula rasa is a new way to support students. In case you haven't noticed, my mind is always moving. James and I are going to create the newest, most bestest, state-of-the-art youth residential center. It will offer CBT, DBT, EMDR. It'll be built on the foundations of emotional CPR. It'll be the first residential center ever built on the foundations of emotional CPR in the world. And it will have We Are Hope's classic coaches. It'll be a 10-month program for youth. The idea is to build it from the ground up, from sustainable 3D printed homes within the facility. We are looking to change the way that people see and think about mental health and its struggles. No more whitewashed walls, making people feel uncomfortable as though they're in a hospital setting. This will be a rural community of students that come together to focus on the whole child, right? One of the things that I have learned and noticed in my years in this industry is that a student may go to a facility to focus on anxiety, but we all know that there's something else also going on. Anxiety and depression are co-occurring disorders. They're struggling with trauma because of the anxiety and the depression. So why would we send someone there to just go focus on anxiety when there's so many other things going on? So our idea is to not only focus on the anxiety, but to, on just the anxiety, but to then give them the support with all of the other things that may be going on in their lives. So when that child leaves, they have a set of skills to last them a lifetime, not a hole in their parents' pocket. This will be the new residential center, not the exact one, but this is what we're looking at doing. So through the 3D printed homes, we can build a 1,200 square foot home for around $9,000 as opposed to 200, 150. So the idea is to have multiple homes throughout. Lastly, or not lastly, my other project here, Project Regrowth. Project Regrowth is my brainchild of taking those who are impoverished, both physically and mentally, and bringing them out of poverty. Created a platform or a program that will focus on generational trauma, poverty, systemic issues, teach them life skills, teach them how to manage their money, get everybody a life insurance policy so they can create generational wealth, get them into home ownership. So after the 3 to 5 year program, after each family gets a therapist and a coach and works on the things that they need to work on and learn financial literacy, that We Are Hope will purchase land, build 3D printed homes, and allow these families to get out of the projects, get out of the trailer parks, and purchase their first home for under $100,000. This week, there's a project going on with NAMI and SAMHSA. I have a meeting this week to take over and work with and partner with the Queensbridge Project in New York City. And the idea is to take the families within the largest project in the world and make them financially stable and emotionally free. This evening, has been something that I had never imagined possible, although I wanted it forever. I didn't think when I started this with James, and I don't think he thought it either, that we would be here where we are right now today. James and I believe in each other. We believe in this mission. God's sakes, we bought a house together. We believe in this mission. We believe in our kids. We believe in those who support them. One of the things that we ask, and as you probably all noticed, that the tickets to the gala were only $75, and that's the reason for that is because we don't really care about the money in that way. Just don't. We want people to show up, to hear the message, to spread the word, to let people know there is an organization out here that is willing to do what nobody else is willing to do. And that is cut the red tape, change the discussion, and change the way that we support our children in the United States of America. So, thank you. Appreciate you. Adam, we have some stuff we got to take care of, right? So if you have any questions, I left some cards kind of scattered throughout. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me. If you have ideas of how we can partner with your organization or your school or your community, if you would like any kind of trainings or anything to that magnitude, please do not hesitate to reach out. The idea, again, guys, is to change the conversation, to make sure that this is just another conversation that we have, that we normalize what we're all going through. Thank you.
How do I follow that up? Yeah, without repeating everything that Sean said, first of all, I wanted to thank every one of you that showed up tonight through the brutal heat, although it feels lovely right now. Thank you so much for coming. Really, this wouldn't be possible without any of you. Having a night dedicated to talking about something that, as John Broderick said, people don't talk about, is truly special and means a lot about every one of you. So really, thank you. Second of all, want to thank all of the speakers. When we started talking about doing this, couldn't have imagined the impact that words had on me and each one of you. It was amazing, so thank you. Thank you to the Quechee Inn. You guys have been unbelievable. And really, this wouldn't have been possible without any of you, so thank you. Thank you to everybody that is doing stuff behind the scenes, photographer. Can't wait to see what the photos look like. My family for helping me put that step and repeat together, and for coming up here. Everybody that played a part in making this happen. All of the sponsors of the auction, which, speaking of, is going to, we are going to close the auction in 5 minutes. And so I'll give you guys a chance to bid one more time. And then we'll announce the winners. And then lastly, we are going to be giving away the beautiful flowers that you see on the tables. And if you make a donation of any amount, we'll give you some flowers to take, the centerpieces. to take home. So you can see me when you leave. And if you did win an auction item, we'll announce it, and then we'll close you out at the exit. And then lastly, I'm going to follow up with each of you over email, whoever bought tickets, and I'll give contact information in case you don't have it, and that you can reach out. Like Sean said, this is a conversation, and if we don't keep it going, we're going to see no change. We want to see mental health be the same change that like we saw with a Black president and the eradication of ashtrays. We want to see everybody getting the help they deserve. It's so important. And with that, thank you so much, everybody, and just go bid, and then we'll talk to you then when we announce the winners. Thank you.